Scaling Up Nation, Trace Blackmore here with some mind-blowing news that'll make your job a whole lot easier. 3 industry titans, Masters Company, Radical Polymers, and MFG Chemical have joined forces to create your ultimate one-stop shop for your water treatment needs. We're talking over 60 years of Masters Company's expertise in private label products and cutting-edge test kits. Radical Polymers' game-changing Inisha additives, and MFG Chemical's custom manufacturing prowess. These American companies are bringing you top-notch quality and reliability all under one umbrella. From blending and ultra-concentrates to specialized polymers and custom solutions, they've got you covered. And with multiple AWT Supplier of the Year awards between them, you know you're getting the best of the best. Ready to revolutionize your water treatment game? Head over to scalinguph2o.com/MFG. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/MFG. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. Accelerate your success. Why go it alone when you can get further faster and have more fun doing it? The Rising Tide Mastermind offers a dynamic environment where you can grow professionally and personally while enjoying the journey. To find out more about the Rising Tide Mastermind, go to scalinguph2o.com/mastermind. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/mastermind. Find out if the Rising Tide Mastermind is right for you. Welcome to the Scaling Up H2O podcast, the podcast where we scale up on knowledge so we don't scale up our systems. I'm Trace Blackmore, the host of the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And Nation, I am Trace Blackmore, certified water technologist. And I say that because I am surrounded by so many other certified water technologists because I am in San Diego, California at the Association of Water Technologies technical training. And folks, this is one of my favorite times of the year. We get to do this twice. This is time number 1. And it's one of my favorite times because I get to teach one of my favorite topics, which is industrial water treatment. I am so fortunate that I get to train several topics throughout the technical training seminars at the Association of Water Technologies technical training. And I got to do that this week. Now, we are wrapping up that event. So if you came up to me and you said that you enjoy this podcast, heck, if you even say you don't enjoy this podcast, but you listen, I'm okay with that as well. But so many people did come up to me and shook my hand and thanked me for the podcast, or better yet, you gave me an idea. Some people said, hey, I think I could be on the podcast. This is my idea. So thank you so much for that. That helps me make sure we're talking about the right things, but it's one of my favorite things to do to meet members of the Scaling Up Nation. We are over 20,000 members strong. That is an amazing number. And it was just so good to go to seminars like this one in San Diego and get to meet so many new people and say hello again to so many people that I have met in the past and now consider friends. I will say that has been one of the most amazing experiences by hosting this podcast, is that I got to meet so many, and I continue to meet so many amazing people because I host this show. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I wish I was in San Diego. I missed it. Well, you've got one more shot because we're going to do it all over again, March 26th through 29th in Frisco, Texas. Folks, Texas is beef barbecue country. And I get no money from Hard 8 at all. But I want to tell you, if you go to Frisco, Texas, make sure that you put on your schedule to find a Hard 8 barbecue restaurant. It is one of my favorite places. You walk in, they're smoking everything, and you get to take whatever you want, and then they weigh your tray at the end. Folks, that's pretty nerve-wracking because you rack up a bunch of pounds that are on that tray and then you have to pay for it at the end. But it is some of the most amazing barbecue that I have ever had. So if you're going to Frisco, Texas, make sure that Hard 8 is on your list. But of course, you're not going just for the food. You are going for the educational tracks. And if you're wondering what those are, we're going to have all of that information for you on our events page. You can go to scalinguph2o.com/events, and it is ranked by calendar. And you can see that we are just experiencing the current AWT San Diego training. And then if you scroll down just a little bit, you will see the March training that I just mentioned. You'll be able to click and it will open up a window that you can register and even put the calendar event in your calendar. We try to make it as easy as possible for you. And all that's just by going to our events page. Now, speaking of events, we've got a few more that I want to mention. We have many people in the Scaling Up Nation that are members of the American Chemical Society. And we're already in San Diego, so maybe you want to come back March 23rd through 27th. Well, one of those days is going to conflict with the AWT event that I just mentioned. But this is their annual spring conference, and this is where thousands of chemistry professionals come together and share scientific and technical knowledge. It is full of keynote speakers and exposition, industry events, career development, networking, so much stuff. They even have childcare there. So to find out more about that, go to our events page. We'll have all sorts of information on that event taking place March 23rd through 27th. And then while you're there, you can look for the Water and Wastewater Leadership Center having their event March 3rd through 13th in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So this is all about leadership and design in public and private water and wastewater utilities. So if this sounds like something that you want to learn more about, we're going to have all of that information for you on our events page. And then the Association of California Water Agencies is having their legislative symposium in Sacramento, California on March 26th. So we'll have all of the information about this annual event on our events page. And of course, so many more events that I did not mention are at your fingertips by going to scalinguph2o.com/events. And folks, you can just add all of these things to your calendar and you can learn new things while you're networking. Well, Scaling Up Nation, before we get to our interview, here's our friend James McDonald with a brand new What Do You Know?
Hello and welcome to What Do You Know? The game show where we find out what do you know about industrial water treatment, drop by drop. So pump up your brain, take out that test kit of knowledge, and prepare to answer this week's question on What Do You Know? Today's question is, what effect will water temperature have on softener backwash during regeneration? Higher backwash flow rates will be required with higher temperatures, and lower backwash flow rates for lower temperatures, due to the changes in density and viscosity of the backwash water. Too high a backwash during colder months could lead to resin being washed down the drain. Check your resin manufacturer's specifications for proper seasonal flow rates. I'm James McDonald, and thanks for playing along with us. Stay tuned for next week's episode of What Do You Know?
Well, thank you, James. And Scaling Up Nation, many of you have noticed that we have been playing What Do You Know along with our social media audience. So many of you are among that social media audience, and primarily LinkedIn is where everybody is. So if you were not connected with me or the Scaling Up H2O podcast on LinkedIn, make sure that you do that, because we throw all sorts of extra show additives to you throughout the week that allow you to scale up even more on your knowledge about the upcoming episode. So be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn so you don't miss any of that fun and valuable information. All right, Nation, here is our interview. My lab partner is returning guest Juan Meneses of Nalco, an Ecolab company. Juan, welcome back to the Scaling Up H2O podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Trace, for having me again in your podcast. So pleasure to be here again.
Absolutely. You were just on episode 405, and we had so much to talk about. We just ran out of time. So you're back to talk about a second paper that you authored. And let me make sure I get the title correct. It's called Western Refinery Optimizes Water Footprint Using 3D TRASAR Technology for Cooling Model Tools.
That's correct. Yep.
So, with that, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to just start off by asking, what are the two main issues that were faced by the refinery?
Well, in this case, Trace, the refinery faced two compelling issues. First, water is a limited resource in that part of the country, and so that came with high costs. In specific, this refinery currently purchases water from the city and is facing, raising costs, not only in the incoming raw water, also the wastewater discharge. So a result of that, and also the city by itself has some sustainability goals, and so they are projecting some cost increase in the raw water around 5% every year in the last three incoming years, and also they were projecting some sugar cost increase, maybe 14 or 15% additionally every year. So that was one of the compelling events for this customer to look for alternative.
So, as you and your team were meeting with the customer and they said, these are some of our concerns, how did you come to the table with these are some ideas we have to help with these factors?
Yeah, well, again, some of the corporate goals of the refinery and also sustainability goals is to, reduce what I think they call freshwater withdrawal intensity. And so one of the key component of that, they were thinking, reducing cooling tower water usage present, a good opportunity to improve that and hit that goal, also to be a good partner in the community and, well, preserving water resource. So at the end, minimize any impact to the environmental and well, they will optimize their own costs. So based on that and understand that challenge, definitely, the way that we can reduce water in a cooling tower is to increase cycle of concentration. So that's one of the main objectives of this process with the customer.
More and more companies are having sustainability goals. What are some of the top sustainability goals that we should be talking with all of our clients about?
Well, definitely water savings, energy savings, and you can tie energy saving with CO2 emissions. So more and more companies are putting goals and also specific goals to try to drive their operation to a X percentage of reduction in water in X amount of time. So most of the company put, some short terms, other medium terms, but around that's the main key component of that sustainability goals.
Now, one of the items you implemented was Nalco's water cooling water optimizer. What exactly is that? And then what was the result of putting that on the system?
Yeah, I mean it's understand the challenge and the goal of the customers. So one of the key component of this study is to use advanced modeling software to understand the system. So we made some system simulation. We simulate, of course, the cooling tower system, try to understand thermal and hydraulic behavior. So with that, we can identify, inefficiency and try to optimize their operation. With that information or with that data, we try to forecast performance and forecast any potential issue. The other part is to try to identify the optimal cycle of concentration, depend of, the water quality. So we started to modeling and evaluate the impact of different cycle of concentration on the scaling or corrosion process. And of course, try to minimize that while maximize the water reuse or water saving. So at the end, this end up in try to weigh chemical costs and against water saving, and of course select the economical optimal cycle of concentration.
Can you give an example where using the modeling software allowed you to create a problem in the modeling software and not have to experience it in real life?
Yeah, well, that allows you to create a scenario, and basically the modeling we focus to try to maximize the cycle of concentration and try to establish a safe operational envelope, you know, to needed to maintain, the system reliability. Part of the modeling also it's used that for scaling species or corrosion processes, and so that was necessary understand that process to use the appropriate technology, appropriate scales of corrosion products, and that could effectively work or tolerate the stress that happen in a cooling tower system when you increase cycle of concentration.
Now, the products you chose to use was dual cathodic inhibitor as well as some high charge polymers. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, high cycle of concentration put a lot of, stress, and you can say that, challenge. You know, you increase scale grease, of course. Higher cycle of concentration have more dissolved minerals and concentration. Also, at the same time, you increase the corrosion potential because a cycle of concentration is tend to elevate the pH and also create more conductivity, so the water is more corrosive, and at the same time create some challenge in the microbiome side biofouling because again more cycle of concentration leading that biofouling mechanisms. Understand that we need to find good corrosion protection, but at the same time, traditional corrosion inhibitor could produce some scale depending of the chemistry or the molecular that you can use. So the dual cathodic protection use specific technology from our side that don't precipitate or, could manage, any scale potential at higher concentration. So that's why we choose that type of technology to manage higher cycle of concentration.
Now, something your paper didn't mention, but you just mentioned it here, was the biological control. So, obviously, you had to make changes when you moved to a higher concentration of cycles. What did that look like before and after when you were making your decisions on what biocide program to use?
Well, that was a challenge as well because we don't have too many options for the specific on that side. So one, the customer wants to keep bleach as a main biocide product. And well, bleach is not so much compatibility with high cycle of concentration because you tend to increase the pH. So part of the equation on that solution is to continue use acid and of course more just to have a suitable pH control and in appropriate range that the bleach could work well. So I think we found a good balance with the pH, to provide a good environment or good range that the bleach could be effective. But that's one of the challenge because the customer doesn't want to change the biocide strategy that they currently have.
What were some of the new control parameters that you had to implement with the higher cycles of concentration?
Well, water treatment sometimes is basic things, and sometimes you need to generate technologies or monitoring technology. But basic, pH level was an important piece in this whole scenario. So, maintaining optimal pH, prevent corrosion and scaling. So that was one of the key component of the monitoring. Of course, conductivity, just to be sure that we are on target in cycle of concentration and use that measure to, use it as a parameter for blowdown control. And of course, we have our own technologies to measure individually corrosion inhibitor and a scale inhibitor in a very accurate way. So that was part of the solution to always monitor in real time what are the dosage and the concentration of our products there. And the rest is also ORP, oxidation reduction potential, or we use ORP and also we use free chlorine just to have two values that could validate that we are dosing the appropriate amount of bleach in this case. So again, what's a combination of traditional monitoring like pH, conductivity, ORP or free chlorine, adding technologies that our company have in the monitoring specific our product.
And you also mentioned one of the tools that you implemented was your 3D TRASAR, which is a proprietary technology. Can you tell the Scaling Up Nation what that is and what it did for you?
Well, that technology was discovered a long time ago and have been progressing and of course improving along of the year. So we use that technology and we blend it in our product to create molecular that could fluoresce using like specific spectrophotometer in our device. That device could, understand what is happening in the water and traduce that in the dosage of the product. That is one component that was our initial discovery at a long time ago. So measure that specific fluorescence, you can know the exact dosage of the product. Then we started to put more research on that, and we start to not only blend that fluorescence molecule in our product, but starting to manufacture the product with that molecule. So it's part of the bond of the product. So that specific work well with scale inhibitor because the scale inhibitor or dispersant add consume when you have stress of the system with high temperature or high HDI or time in the systems or low flow, for example. So that type of condition, can consume your scale inhibitor. So when this molecule is manufactured with scale inhibitor, it also consume as well. So you can have a real-time indication that you are losing a scale inhibitor by any stress in the system, like I mentioned that. And so that allows us to adjust the dosage, increase or decrease, depending on what's going on in the system. So we have, with that technology, we can provide a good and accurate control on our scale inhibitors and also in our corrosion inhibitors.
Would it be safe to say if a listener's trying to correlate the 3D TRASAR technology with something that they might be familiar with, it's probably as close to PTSA?
Correct. Yeah, PTSA, it's very, very familiar in the industry. We use that in our products. So yeah, the market is very, very familiar with that PTSA as well.
In your modeling, you had predicted reduction of blowdown, and then you had actual reduction of blowdown. I'm curious, how close was your modeling to what you actually discovered, what you are actually able to do?
Yeah, well, maybe the modeling was a little more optimistic in our first approach. Of course, you always have some caution when you discuss that, with the customer or the people that are involved in the project. We have some tolerance of that. But even that our modeling say that we can go more, I think we find a good balance. I think we could increase close to 9 from 5 point something to 9.3. And that was enough to meet customer expectation and at the same time, provide a safe condition to operate the treatment and the condition for the cooling tower system.
So, from going to 5.5 to 9.3, what was that in actual savings?
Well, of course, you have two way of saving, definitely, you reduce drastically the makeup water. I think was close to 52 million gallons. And of course, that these two components. So you reduce your makeup and also you reduce your wastewater. So you have a double counted of that savings. And at the same time, it drastically you can reduce your chemical usage. If you are using less makeup water, you will use less chemistry overall. Of course, some are maybe used in higher concentration, but at the end was combined saving between water and chemical product.
So, in order to make any changes and to realize the savings that you just mentioned, you've got to convince the customer to make an initial investment. What's some advice that you have for everybody listening how they can invest a little bit of capital up front, knowing that they're going to save this tremendous on the back end, but it's not realized yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this case, really, the customer have a good driver to move in that direction. Honestly, the capital cost of this project was not too much. I mean, they were familiar with the technology. It's a matter that we just adjust some of the products and maybe increase bleach consumption, acid consumption, because we were expecting that from the modeling. So was a easy task really to move in that direction. Of course, the customer was really, really concerned also about, reliability and scales or corrosion issues. So, you know, again, if you talk honestly with a customer to understand the challenge and also the limitation that you will have with your chemical treatment, they could understand very well, all the risks and all the benefit at the same time. So I think, we were very honest. We understand the challenge that we provide, I think, a solution that could meet those sustainability target, and they move forward. So the capital investment was not so much in this case, Trace.
Now that you know that this plan is successful, what do you know now that you wish you knew going into this?
Well, after the implementation, I think one of the main challenge was microbiological control. So one of the key critical piece was to control the pH. We have a lot of technologies in the market to pH meter. It's a well-known area. But well, when you start to increase cycles, you put also some challenge in the probe by itself. So choose the right probe, the good technology that could provide accurate result. It's important because you rely not too much, but you rely, the successful of the treatment to have a really tight pH control. So in this case, we implemented like a dual pH control. So we have our own technology in the probe size, but also we know that in the market there is phenomenal and very reliable pH probe. So we combine that in our controller. So we have a dual pH control in case if we detect any gap between those reading, we immediately need to take some action and the customer need to take some action, or it's a matter to confirm the pH value, calibrations, and also, well, is one of the products bad order, you immediately replace. So pH control and have that capability, it's important, to have different source for that monitoring control. Make sense? That
I think so, absolutely. Whenever you are implementing a new program, the implementation is important, making sure you're getting right what you hope to get right, but communicating that back to the customer is even more key. What are some tips that you have to make sure that you and your team were communicating properly back to your customer?
Yeah, good question. It's like a teamwork, open communication, regular meetings that provide, open channels of communication and ensure that everyone was in the same page. That's important. again, was easy task because, from the refinery leadership teams were engaged with this project. So that, provide good information to the lower levels. I mean, share expertise. Of course, if you combine the refinery staff, operational knowledge, because they know their system, they know the refinery with our technical expertise, I think you create, a well-rounded team. So this synergy led to provide some solution, innovation, and more effective implementation. Maybe other things could be, joint problem solving. Again, any problem, if you implemented any collaborative benchmarking sessions and try to other challenge, that can appears in the system, it's a good way to solve it. The last thing I think, best practice, this is not something new, increased cycle. So if you get some knowledge internally from the company, obviously you can provide the customer some of the challenge that other sites or other areas in the company have been implemented before. And I think the last thing is, clear roles, trace with the customer. If you define good roles and responsibility of every team member internally and also with the customer, that will minimize overlaps, ensure accountability to making, the project more efficiency.
As members of the Scaling Up Nation read your paper, hear this podcast, and they go out and they start talking with their customers about optimizing their water footprint, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I think, this is more and more, customers will drive this type of project. It's nothing new, but now I think they have the drivers because, the corporate goals and the sustainable goal, promote that. And I think the companies right now are willing to, invest some money, put some capital expense to meet those goals. And that's open a lot of door for project, not only increased cycle of concentration. You can, attack this problem from other perspective, change the quality of the raw water, put some softeners or put some RO or, there are different ways that you can try to optimize and saving water. So more and more that type of challenge will be in the market. And I'm pretty sure that, your listeners and other companies are doing the same for the customer. Again, I think a good implementation of this specific project, if you can with good and advanced monitoring and automation, you optimize your chemical treatment with modeling the condition and facing those challenge. That's a very key critical component of provide that solution for the customer. And of course, once implemented, if you conduct, regular maintenance inspection of the real heat exchanger or unit that you are treated, that will be important to understand if we are doing if our solution is meeting that expectation. And as we talk, Trace, about the teamwork, foster collaboration and communication with the customer are key component of that. And focus on sustainability. That's a goal and a lot of companies right now.
So, Juan, I'll make sure to have your paper on our show notes page so people can read along as they're listening to the podcast or go back and review it later. But I'm not quite done with questions for you. I've got round 2 of the lightning round if you're buckled up and ready to go.
I'm ready. Yep.
All right. Question 1. What would you say your superpower is?
I think my superpower could be adaptability. So I have experienced quite a changes in my personal and professional life. I mean, including changing countries, changing language. So I drive in changing environment a lot of times. So, and you need to quick adapt to that challenge. So adaptability will be one that's allow me to stay focused or positive, even even when things don't go as planned.
What would you say your biggest accomplishment has been?
We are in technical sales, but at the end, we are in a sales company. So being in a sales position, give the opportunity to qualify for sales award. And I think one of the big achievement I created a few years ago when I was selected as the top 1% of globally in terms of sales volume, new account generations, and also margin growth. So that was a perfect year for me that time. Difficult to repeat, but was a really nice one.
If you had a magic wand and could change anything in the world, what would you change?
That's a good question. Wow. Maybe it could be a little utopic, but I think eliminating poverty and try to ensuring everyone have access to basic needs for food and clean water. That it's our business, healthcare, education, and maybe the last one, education. If you improve education and in the less benefit countries or people, you can, affect future generations. So access to quality education can empower individuals and at the same time reduce poverty. So you back to the beginning. So it's like a virtual circle.
So, last time you were here, I asked you what the last few books that you read were. What are some of your favorite books that you think everybody needs to read?
Well, yeah, I have maybe few selection. I like book called Good Profit from Charles Cole, this US businessman. So you can read a good business philosophy, for one of most of successful businessmen in US. So that is one. In the manager side, I'm a people manager of my team. So there is a book called Crucial Conversation. You can find it in internet. I don't remember the author, but I mean, give you great perspective on how to face difficult conversation. Again, it's a great tool for manager and also for negotiation, but more for managers. And I think the last one that I like it, we use a lot in our companies for discipline of execution. If I remember well, one of the authors is Chris McKesney. There are a few other authors, but it's a good methodology to pass from the desire or planning stage to actually execute goals, project, whatever.
We had Chris McChesney on this podcast. I'm trying to remember the number. I don't have it in front of me. It was in the 160s, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we'll make sure by the time this airs that that'll be in the show notes page so people can listen to that one. He was a great person to interview, by the way.
Great. That's nice.
Much like yourself.
Thank you.
Well, Juan, thanks for not only coming on episode 405, but coming back today, sharing your findings with us, and helping to elevate the entire Scaling Up Nation.
Thank you for all your work you put in your podcast. I think it's a great resource for all that we are in this, water space. So thank you again.
Well, Juan, once again, thank you for returning to the Scaling Up H2O podcast. If you didn't catch part one of Juan's interview, it was episode 405 just a few weeks ago. And Juan and I had such a good time talking about his first paper, we didn't have time to talk about the second paper. So that's why he came back today. And if you are wanting to read each one of those papers, don't worry. They are going to be on that particular episode's show notes page. We'll be able to download that and you'll be able to review everything that we are talking about. So for today's episode, just go to episode 409 in the show notes and you will see that you can download that paper. Now, when Juan and I were talking, I remembered that I interviewed Chris McChesney of Franklin Covey, and we were talking about the 4 disciplines of execution, but I couldn't remember exactly what episode it was. I thought it was pretty good, and I would love to receive extra points that I knew it was in the 160s, but I didn't remember exactly it was 164. But come on, nation. Over 400 episodes, and I remembered that was in the 160s. I think I should get credit for that. And I want you to get credit for the fact that we have over 400 episodes because you are letting me know what we need to talk about. You're giving me ideas. You're giving me guests. So if you have one of those, don't keep that to yourself. Go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to our show ideas page and let us know what that is so we can make sure we've got plenty of episodes into the future. Nation, I really enjoy bringing these episodes to you each and every week. I definitely enjoy meeting you in person when I am at events like I'm at today in San Diego for the Association of Water Technologies. So hopefully I'll see you at the next one, or maybe it's another event that we are both attending. Whatever it is, make sure that if we're at an event, you come up and say hi. I love that. And I love it that you have on your agenda that each and every week you are going to listen to the brand new episode that we deliver to you on Friday of Scaling Up H2O. Have a great week, folks. Ready to boost your water treatment expertise? Our Certified Water Technologist Prep course is designed to give you the confidence and skills you need to sign up for the Certified Water Technologist examination. Test your knowledge with our 100-question practice exam and learn what you need to succeed. Go to scalinguph2o.com/CWT prep to get started today.